Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Hugo Breton. I'm Senior Partner of Action Coach Halton, and today I'm here with Cathy O'Leary, the owner of Playful Strides Therapy, as my guest. We're going to be talking about her business, her journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and what's really um, the behind the scenes of owning a business. So if this is your first time on this channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations just like this one. So Cathy, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for offering to host me. That's lovely.
Yeah, no. So why don't we get started with give us a little bit of an overview of your background and what led you to be the founder of Playful Strides and what do you do today?
Sure. So my name is Cathy O'Leary, as I said. I'm an occupational therapist by training. I've been doing this for almost 30 years and graduated from McMaster in 1994. I worked both in the US and then in Canada. In Canada, I worked in pediatrics because that's my area of knowledge. And I worked in an institution. And when I was there, um, typical of occupational therapists, you don't have a full time, it's kind of a gig economy. You put this job together with another job, and one job fell through. And I moved into the world of independent contracting. And from independent contracting, I realized that there were needs beyond the Ministry of Health funded services, and people were asking for individual sessions. So I became a sole proprietor of a company, which at that point was Cathy O'Leary Occupational Therapy Services. As I started to do this more, I realized I didn't want to work in isolation as much. So I was given an opportunity to partner with a speech and hearing company called Hearsay Speech and Hearing because they had some room in their space and they needed therapy support for their kids. And so then I partnered with them for space. And then I took over the space, and Playful Strides Therapy was born in that space. And we've always believed in a position where we worked as a team. So we provide occupational therapy and physiotherapy for children in a neurodiverse environment that's based on play. So that means it's child-led, parent engaged, and the therapist brings the skills and opportunities for the just right challenge, and the parents and children decide how far they go with things. We've had significant growth in our company and have moved twice from that period of time. I'm hoping to never move again. I'm in my forever home at this point. So we're a brick and mortar system that provides clinic in clinic. We provide two partnership environments. We work in an ABA center and we work in a private school. And then we provide virtual services to other families. Our catchment is huge. So we service the Greater Toronto area for feeding, which is my expertise, is feeding and eating. And then we also provide service in Halton and Peel for occupational therapy, bread and butter skills like fine motor and self-regulation, and that those type of skills, and then physiotherapy in a traditional musculoskeletal sense, but using a neurodiverse model. How's that
Mm,
for a spiel?
okay,
Yeah.
great. Um, and so how long ago was it that you started Playful Strides?
We just had our 10th year anniversary
Okay.
in April. So the
Oh,
beginning of April.
congratulations.
Thank you. April. Oh, sorry, February. It was February.
Ah,
We didn't
okay.
actually have our first client till April, 2000, whatever, 14.
Hmm.
But my company was incorporated in February.
Okay. Okay. And given I know you talked about the different um lines of therapy that you provide, but tell me more about who are the typical patients like um because you say that the kids um can be neurodivergent or the environment is.
Mhm.
But so what are some of those issues that you identified that exist and may not be covered in funded therapy?
Okay, so I'm kind of splitting this. The first part is who is our typical client, or who is our client? What if I did an avatar? What would they look like? So they have family or caregivers that are engaged. They are between the ages of 0 and 21. There's an identified issue that the family and or the people around that child has identified that's impacting on their overall development. So it could be an infant who has problems eating, or it might be an infant who has torticollis, it's a twisted neck, which is impacting on their ability to sit and roll, etc. It may be a child who has develops a bit more and is not meeting their motor milestones. So it could be a child who presents with a neurodevelopmental delay, like autism, cerebral palsy, and rare syndromes. We see a lot of rares. And it may be just that kid who's got that funky pencil grip that is really annoying everybody. And when we look at it, we can walk back up the chain. It's not their hand, it's their shoulder. So we kind of will look at that whole piece. The other large piece that we're seeing post-COVID are children who have social emotional issues or social thinking difficulties, such that attention, focus, and executive functioning is impacting on their ability to get to along with others, engage with others, or do other things. So things they love. The last grouping we have, which is a specialty of our clinic, is kids who have feeding issues. So we see children with pediatric feeding disorders. So they could be a child who has swallowing issues, who may have had medical issues like a heart transplant or cardiac surgery, or a tongue tie, or a more complicated hole in their throat when they were born. It's called a tracheal fistula. And that's impacted on their ability to eat. And then we have a grouping of kids who've choked on food or had another issue, so that they present more as a child with an avoidant or restrictive food intake. Many children on our caseload do have a diagnosis of autism, and that is more because they have higher levels of sensory processing issues. But a child with a sensory processing issue might not also have autism. So they're separate entities. We see them for their function, not for their issues. The second part of that is we have pathways that we use, which are based on evidence and clinical practice. So, and those, we have 10 of them. And I'm not going to get into detail in them because I think it's a little bit of overkill. But we see kids who have motor challenges, children who have functional activities of daily living challenges like eating, or toileting, sleeping. And then we have a grouping of kids who have school-related challenges like writing or managing gym or being safe in the school, or social emotional development. So we see kids and we sort of have a pathway we place them upon based on evidence that's out there. So no matter who you see in our clinic, you get consistent services. And that's what makes a difference in a clinic versus individual. We have to make sure that we're providing excellent service across the board.
Okay, that's a fantastic point, and I'll get back to that. So, given that this is beyond covered support, how have you been connecting with the families? Like, what's if we were to think about your marketing, how do you acquire new patients?
So there's multiple different ways. Mummies groups are actually on Facebook, seems to refer a lot. What's lovely about when you look at a Google SEO, we always show up at the top. But that's partially because we're the only clinic in town that does occupational therapy, which does help. So we have word of mouth. We are connected to the hospitals and the regional and specific hospitals like Holland Bloorview or Sick Kids or McMaster for feeding and specialty services. We also are connected to tertiary hospitals and pediatricians, and we reach out to pediatricians on a quarterly basis. We also have families referring to families, and our largest referral source is actually parents and teachers, not the pediatricians. Pediatricians refer more for physio, and all other services tend to be word of mouth or through showing up on search engines.
Okay, so
We
you're
don't
reaching
actually
out
move
to
in.
you reach out to pediatricians, also to teachers, or how did you started connecting with teachers?
So we do see a lot of children of teachers. So they've seen the service. We do connect with teachers with regards to children. So if I'm seeing Billy who's in grade 2, there might be a meeting with the school team, and we will give them strategies that work. So they go, aha, well, that works for Billy. Here's Johnny. Johnny needs the same thing. I'll refer them. Um, and we are beyond the services they get in the school, right? So occupational therapy and physiotherapy in the school in your first year is 4 visits. And after that, if you're complex, you get 2. So for most children, that's not enough. So when parents want to address the issue and not just accommodate it, they'll come see us for a block. What happens is you see the child for a block for fine motor, and then they say, but I saw you had a physio. Could my child have an assessment for physio? And it's, my kid's really struggling with eating. So they kind of re-refer themselves
Okay.
as they need to. And some families, we see them once or twice and we're done. Like our goal is not to see a child forever. We don't want them
Yeah.
to be in therapy all life.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the business, um, like you're at a spot that many businesses would like to get to, where a lot of it is happening through SEO, word of mouth, referrals. Um, when you think about, like, do you have a marketing budget, and then how do you think around that marketing budget? What would you use it for?
So I actually went to a course in January on marketing, spent a full day on marketing, and realized part of our holes was actually our communication to our clients. So we've been working on we have a portal that families can access, increasing our newsletters, and using organic build. And I've taken one of my therapists and given her a bit of time because she is a influencer in Portuguese for OTs. So she's doing some of the work here. There are a couple of things that were really good. One of them I thought was really cool. They said you have a clinic phone that you can take pictures and video on in the moment. Part of our introduction to families is to find out is whether they're comfortable with social media. So we do that at the beginning. If they're not, that's fine. It's not an issue for us. But we know whether they are okay with us taking pictures of their child for their child's treatment, or can we take pictures, because we have huge rules around privacy that meet the healthcare criteria for the Registered Health Professionals Act. So we have more limitations. We can't do testimonials, they're not allowed. We're not allowed to do social media with faces unless the family send them to us. So we do a lot of no face information, and we've started to do more stories, like case studies, because the families can identify with that and refer themselves. Right now, we have enough work in the sense of we have 40 kids on our wait list. I hate wait lists because it means someone's waiting for service. So we've done some e-courses as well that are generally available on our website. And so we've started to reach out in different ways to meet the growing need and not have people wait, because waiting is the worst thing you can do to a family because they get really anxious. So we're kind of doing the grassroots stuff right now. If I was to look at a marketing budget, we haven't gotten there. We kind of will put $20 here, $100 there. We don't do a whole bunch. We do also school reach out when they run events where they want a table. Will you come and do a table? So we'll do a table here or there. And then there's things that happen in Milton. Like we're on the main street. So if there is a festival, I think every other weekend starting in June. So we are seen, but we haven't really reached out into that region yet. But we did sponsor a badminton competition. That was our first
Okay.
movement into that area, so people knew us.
Okay. But I love that, like, even if you say you're not formalizing that budget, you're
Mhm.
doing a lot of organic stuff. So even thinking about, you're putting time and effort, and even making it part of your processes. So it sounds like, and it's working. So it's great. I think as you go deeper, it's just adding more strategies that you can
It's
then
being
say,
consistent, I find, is the hardest part.
"Mm, yeah, yeah." But it seems that you're doing the right things if the SEO is working and you're getting those referrals.
Mhm.
You mentioned you started as an independent contractor, and before we started recording, you were talking about that switch from being self-employed to running a clinic, and I know that part of whenever I'm doing seminars, getting that distinction of being self-employed and really acting as the business owner is something we can't stress enough. So tell me a little bit about your journey in that sense and going from self-employed to really
Sure.
acting and working on the business.
So I would even say when I started Playful Strides, I was still working the business. I was working as what a lot of therapists do. I had myself and associates. We all did kind of the same thing, and I paid them for their work, and I got the billing. And still, so that there's when you're self-employed, I have a contract with an agency. They send me referrals. I do my paperwork. I see the client. I get a billing. They pay me. That would be a self-employed model. So an independent contractor, you pick your own hours. You see who you want to see. You're in charge of your own tools. And you can say, no, I don't want to work today. You're responsible for doing your own billing, but you're not actually responsible for all the other stuff that's behind it. When I moved into, I'm really running a business, you're starting to look at CRA and profit and loss and rent and having employees that you actually, or even independent contractors where you're having to build contracts for them. You're needing to take time to mentor. You're needing to take time to deal with the just government paperwork that you need to fill out. There's all those pieces that are beyond. I see a client, I do the paperwork, I'm done. And so that's when you're working in the business. And when you're working on the business, you're also doing marketing, you're also doing outreach, you're also doing strategic planning, and you're also checking out your competition to see where you sit in the market. And those sort of pieces took a while for me to get my head around because as a occupational therapist, it wasn't discussed in any of our training. And because none of that discussion was made, it makes it much harder for you to recognize utilization rates and even just the concept of, am I making any money? Right. So just, am I working in the business and making no money, or am I working and providing a lovely service to the community? But is it really acting as a nonprofit? Or am I actually providing a living wage for myself and my staff and providing a value to the community? That's the difference, I think.
Hmm. And because you said it took a while, like in your
Mhm.
case, like how long do you think that transition has taken, and where are you in that process?
It's funny, I did payroll today. Um, so we grew really quickly. So it was a forced upon me to shift. I'm still a large part of the business just because my name is known. And it probably was in the last 3 years that truly I was working on the business. COVID really forced you to work on the business.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I would say the real growth probably happened in the last 4 years for me to really understand. I think it was because I could take a pause and look at the business, whereas before I was just running to catch up because the volume of need was so great. But being able to step back and take a look and realize, hey, we got a trend here. This person's really good at that. And we actually have shifted and right sized our business. We actually had a reduction in some staffing that happened organically that we just haven't filled because it didn't make sense to the business. And that was probably, and an advisor and I were talking about this. So when therapists work, they make money for the business. Sometimes when you have therapy assistants, because of our insurance model that is used in the country, there's a real shift in trend towards not funding sessions if a therapy assistant was involved. So we kind of backed off on the therapy assistant because families were saying it's not being paid by the insurance company. So recognizing your business needed to shift because the parents' funding shifted. I'm not my parents' financial planners, my clients' financial planners. So if they choose to spend their money on lots of OT and PT and it's appropriate, cool. If they say, yeah, we can't, we will work with the funding they have to get the best service. But being able to recognize that I'm not their planner. I am not the mom of the other therapists that work here. Recognizing boundaries and building strategies has probably really taken off in the last 3 to 4 years.
Okay. Okay. Now in that whole process, it sounds like team has been
Mm.
a critical factor. How would you describe your leadership style in the business, and has it changed over time? Because I'm guessing it could also fall in that, as you were saying, it wasn't necessarily part of your original training.
Mhm.
So yeah. So tell me a little bit about your leadership style and how is
So
it
there's other things that
evolved?
happened in the middle that really shifted the way I did things. So in 2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and was treated and continued working during that time because I had a good team around me. So the culture of the clinic, based on the way I manage with my staff, is that of teamwork. Um, I have shifted, I would say, in the last year and a half to a more what's the word I want? Mentorship role with my staff, and I am letting them take the lead in certain areas. So I promoted 2 therapists to a lead position. So they're the lead therapists, and they each have their own responsibilities. So I'm kind of letting go of certain things, but I'm also holding everyone more accountable for completing things. Um, and by doing that, I found that they were really responsive to it. I'm really trying hard not to micromanage because it's just sometimes easier to do it yourself. So I'm working really hard not to. And so I'm moving more into the strategic process and making sure people understand where we're going and why we're going that way so that I have better buy-in from the staff. And I'm finding that's been really helpful. So I'm being open in my communication and transparent as I can be, but I'm also being really clear on our strategic plan. So I relate everything back to what our vision is, and is that meeting our vision? And then we're really working hard on standard operating procedures so everyone understands the operationalization of that vision.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
I'm
And
really working hard on sort of those pieces right now,
yeah.
and using some guidance in that area.
And I'm guessing those standard operating procedures really are tied to that consistent service that you were describing
Mhm,
earlier.
mhm. But even things like, so we have equipment in our gym because we're a sensory gym. So we have a climber and 5 swings. So swings that spin. And they're, how do you set up a swing? I would think it was no. But I realized that as I have newer therapists who've had none of those experiences that I have had, that even I had as a new grad, because they're COVID therapists, so meaning that a lot of their training was done online, that just how to hook something up. I need to actually blow by blow write out exactly what the expectation is. And when I do that, they're like, oh, yeah, that's great. And they have something to rely back to, which is helpful.
Hmm, okay. So let me start wrapping our time talking about that strategy and the vision. So I mean, without breaking any confidentiality, but you say you're at your forever home.
Mhm.
Where do you see the business in the next 3 to 5 years?
So it's quite interesting. So here's Say Speech and Hearing, who I spoke about before, and I took over this building together. So it's 12,000 square feet. It's a big building, and I have a third of it. But there's room for us to grow. So there was built-in room for us to spread our wings a bit. We will take over a little bit more space in the future. My goal with the company is that we provide both here service and fill in services where they don't have it. So, and that is our strategic plan. So we've started doing that with the ABA centers or the autism centers we provide support with. And we do that with the school, and we're kind of supporting a special needs school in meeting their needs, and the families are quite happy with it. So the goal is to spread out beyond here, but using the clinic as the centered space that every therapist works in, and then they may move out to a satellite to provide greater service within the community. Our second big strategic is to become the feeding center or feeding and eating center for Ontario, where people come if they have feeding and eating challenges to support their families. So that's a new area we're moving into with more intensives and seeing kids for 3 or 4 days at a time, and then not seeing them for 2 to 3 months. So that's a different model, which involves the community because they've got to find a hotel and Airbnb. So it's a build out from where we are right now.
Okay, great. And just a couple of really quick questions. So a few words on each, but what would you say is the key to success for you?
Seeing trends in the community and providing appropriate services at the right time in the right way.
Okay. And other than the experience and what you've shared already, any other piece of advice for business owners?
I'm pausing. I say do something you're passionate about because then it won't feel like work.
Okay.
And then the second part of that, if you're not passionate about it, find something else, someone else to do that piece.
Yeah. Sometimes delegating is difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So when we share this, we'll share it with all of your contact information. But you were mentioning before we started that you have some upcoming events for the summer. Can you tell the
Sure.
audience a little bit about
So
that?
we run therapy intensives in the summer. It's a time when some families just come to see us in the summer. So a therapy intensive is in a group model as a camp, and the kids see it as a camp. We run 8 camps. Some of them are social and emotional and base, and they're OT-PT camps. Some of them are just straight like bikes and balls. We're learning to use balls and bike ride. And then we have 2 brand new programs that are the ones I'm highlighting. One's called Leadership in Me, and it is for children who have intellectual disabilities and or a neurodevelopmental issue to work on life skills in a group environment that's not fast paced. It moves at their pace. And then the other one is leadership and community, and that's for kids who are possibly in transitioning between grade school and high school, may have some social challenges and need to work on their own leadership skills within themselves, within a small group. And then that group is actually going to go out into the community and provide some volunteer leadership materials to the community. And I'm really excited about those two. So if anyone's interested in them, we do have space in them.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. So maybe you can send me some information. I will
Sure.
include that with this posting.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I will get that organized and sent to you.
Excellent. So Kathy, thank you so much for your time sharing your experience and advice to other business owners. It was great to have you here at Business Spotlight. So
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.